We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Larry Borom. Miami Dolphins, newest O-line they added in free agency. 75, he played mostly tackle. He'll play for the Bears the past couple seasons. He's also played guard. He's played left tackle, right tackle. Now, I won't lie, the film is rough, especially at tackle. He gave up a lot of sacks, a lot of pressures. He really struggles in pass protection, I think, with especially with his footwork efficiency isn't very good. I think he has a poor base. He is constantly has a narrow base. His angles and aiming points are definitely not great either, just constantly out of position. So it's not a lot of great film to work off of. I think, he's clearly going to be a depth guy. I don't think he's a guy they're relying on to start. He does at least have some upside there because he is a huge guy. He's 6'5", 330. And he's a good athlete. He moves well at his size, and he'll do some things that I'm oh, that's interesting. Where he mixes up his sets, stuff like that. I do think was told by a lot of people. So many people kept telling me to go watch his 2022 Bills tape where he played guard, and we'll see some clips in here. And he did play better at guard. Don't get me wrong. I do think he'll play better at guard, and he'll probably play better in the Miami system. I can at least understand it from the Dolphins' perspective. He is their type of player that they look for from his physical traits and athletic standpoint. And they probably think they can get more out of him because he does do some good things on the move. At least he moves well. He just struggles, I think, with actually hitting his targets while he's on the move, which obviously, sucks. And then playing in Miami, it's much easier. His biggest weakness is in pass pro, and it's much easier to, mitigate that problem at guard and in the Dolphins. Because if you watch the Bears scheme, man, it was tough to watch. So many times, Caleb Williams is just holding onto the ball for years and years. That won't be the case in Miami. I just wish, my main issue is I wish he was more of a mover. For his size, I wish he moved people more in the run game. If he moved people more in the run game, I actually would think there's some potential there for him to actually be something, because I've talked about it, the same thing with Brewer last year. Brewer could move, and he could cut off people in the running game. He could get to the second level. He'd do great things out in space, but he wasn't the greatest pass protector. Comes to Miami, and pass protection wasn't an issue for him at all because of the scheme. I think you could do that, the same thing with Borom on the inside playing guard, but he doesn't have the same quiet physical prowess, and, the angles and stuff like that. So we'll break some of this down. The tackle film is rough, whether it's right tackle or left tackle. Even jump setting, because Dolphins love to jump set with their tackles. Just look at him, jump set, get out of position, because if you're in a jump set, you got to get into them, and he gets too wide with his angles, and he misses his, the punch timing's off, he misses, and it just allows that inside spin move, because I think he actually is, shows some decent explosiveness, but ends up, showing some poor footwork, and is not able to recover in this situation. It's really, a lot of the times, I think one of his biggest issues is, positioning, in relation to defensive ends. I think the thing he has going to, because obviously re-signed Eichenberg, I think the thing that he has over Eichenberg is at least has some physical traits to work with. Eichenberg is bad, but also doesn't have great physical traits. He's not athletic. He's not the biggest guy. Borom's at least big and athletic, and he still is young. He's still 25, so there might be some development that he could have. But his film is definitely better at guard. I think he'll play guard in Miami, probably be a guy that is a backup and play multiple spots. And it won't be as bad in Miami, but I still don't have very much faith in him at all. I would still like to definitely upgrade just all around. But here's another example of him getting out. He gets out of his stance, looks pretty explosive, and then he gets heel clicky. He does this a lot where it's heel clicky, where you get that base, your base is narrow, it gets you caught off balance, which is another problem. If he was bigger, he is bigger, but he doesn't have the greatest anchor for being big, and I think that has to do with his base. He goes out, and then he gets aggressive, and I like that he mixes up his sets, but he just isn't able to win when he does that. He gets too far to the outside, gives up that inside path, and he doesn't have the base there to get back and recover, and ends up, giving up a quick pressure, losing that rep. And then you can see some stuff like this. I do think the Bills game was better. It wasn't perfect, though. Don't get me wrong. This game was still this game was probably one of his better games, but it was probably about an average game overall. But these are the reps that you want to see. Moving, pulling. You want to see a guy that can move out in space. You don't get to see that a ton on his film, but when you do, this is what you can see that can translate to Miami. Movement skills, get out there, get on a DB. This is one of the times where he actually gets a body on, he gets his hands on, and actually pushes the guy out. That was not always the case on his film, but that's an example of one of the positive reps. But you saw his losses at guard. Here he loses to Ed Oliver on the inside, lunges, definitely gets a little wide with his hands, and you can see he's bending at the waist right there. Like, it's not like his base is that bad in this situation, but he gets, waist bendy, gets over the top, and is not able to, get in position. Oliver's able to get a hit on the quarterback, so he still has his losses there as well. But this is the stuff that I really want to see, is when this guy is playing as a 2-eye, so he has a slight leverage advantage. You are on the backside of this play, where the Bears are running some pin pull, and he has to cut him off. So this is almost like what you would see him do if he was playing guard in the Dolphins on outside zone, is he's on the backside and he has to cut him off. He shows some good lateral quickness. He's able to get to the spot that he needs to be exactly, and now he's in position to seal him off on the backside. So that's kind of like the reps you're looking at there. They're like, okay, can they potentially work and develop that with Borom? He just needs to do a better job, I think, with his angles and sustaining in these situations. But there, it's enough. Here's like another example. This one's a really good rep because like this guy is a 1 tech, but on the other side of the center. And the fact that he's able to get out of his stance here, like this is a really impressive rep, at least the first part of it. The explosion out of the stance, and then his ability to just get a body on and then get your hips across and seal him. That's what you want to see. That's the type of thing that can translate to the Dolphins. It's just, will he be able to do that consistently? Because if he can, then I think you could potentially see him on the field, and you could, mitigate the pass rush or the pass pro problems that he has for the Dolphins because of their scheme, because of Tua's quick release. Playing guard, it's not as big of an issue playing tackle. But then he has reps like this where he still gets blown off the ball, gets caught off balance here and pulls his guy to the ground. He ends up getting a holding call there. So like he still is having some negative reps in this game. It's definitely not my favorite signing. I can at least understand the vision with this one, like what it could potentially be, but I don't know. To me, it should have been like, because I think he got like a little over $2 million. He probably should have been like a vet minimum type of guy. But this rep, I think, does a good job of kind of pointing out his strengths and weaknesses at once. So one, he gets out, he throws that drag hand, he's willing to, help on the combo, and then climb up to the second level. He shows athleticism to get there, cut off his guy, get where he needs to be, and then not maybe over pursue a little bit, and then not take the greatest angle and not get a good block on him. Now, it doesn't matter. Like, forcing the guy under the linebacker underneath him is not that big of a deal as long as the running back doesn't have to cut back into him. In this situation, he doesn't have to. The linebacker kind of takes himself out of the play. This is just sort of like something that happens where like Borom just needs to be better with his angles and adjusting and just being more prepared, body control out in space, so he can at least get more of a body on people. This situation is not too big of a deal, but it's just another type of thing where that ends up happening. Here we get to see just moving laterally on a combo, actually showing some leg drive, creating a little bit of lateral movement, a little more than usual. I've seen him get stonewalled in these situations. We'll see other spots where he doesn't quite create, the movement that you're looking for. Here we get to see him at tackle. This is like the stuff I want to see. Pulling out in space, getting body on a DB, able to show some, like actually get hands on, create some push. I mean, Roberts, but I would also like this is a small DB, like put him to the ground. He's able to still peel off and help potentially make that tackle far down the field. But it's the initial part of the plays that you gotta like. He's got to just work on the finishing. This one's not too bad, but there's reps where like he doesn't even get a body on at all. Like here, he loses the rep late. I don't mind the initial parts of the play. This is a play that won't, like, if this is what happens in Miami, for most likely the ball is going to be released by the quarterback, so it won't be too much of an issue. He gets more, more of jump setty-ish right here. Actually shows a good, independent hand placement of that right hand. He's doing some hand fighting, but then he gets narrow in his base because his initial base isn't too bad. Like, he's not super heel clicky there. He actually plays with a good base. And then once he gets too narrow, he gets tossed off balance and he's not able to recover. And then they get the sack. For the Dolphins, this ball is gonna be released. So this is why, this is like an example of where like this is a bad rep, but this bad rep in Miami probably, doesn't mean too much. It's probably not too big of a deal just because of the situation. And this is what I'm talking about, like lack of some strength and anchor. Because usually when you lose an anchor, it's like the guy's rushing for where number 2 is, and he's converting speed to power. The fact that 91 from his alignment from right here is able to create a push with no momentum, no speed, just from like playing as like a 3 tech, doing that against a tackle, is unacceptable. And he's just getting walked back into the quarterback. That's just something that I really, for a guy of his size, you just can't allow that stuff in the game. I think for the most part, like, he usually ends up losing in other ways with, like, power, maybe getting tossed off balance and losing the inside. I think when they try to beat him to the outside, like, he'll lose the outside occasionally, but it's probably where he'll at least have some more winning reps. That's why I wanted to show that one. He'll at least ride him around. But then just poor angles, like I'm saying, like here, get off the ball, get out to Buda Baker, and just you gave up all that inside room. Just constantly out of position. And, he's a good athlete for his size, but he's not good enough of an athlete to where, like, he can constantly be out of position to recover and get back into his spots. Here's a rep of jump setting actually working out for him. Like, he actually mixes up his sets. Like, he first looks like he's going to go into, like, a 45 or a vertical set, and then he gets aggressive and gets out to him. Like, I actually like that. It can throw defensive ends off guard. Like, and usually offensive linemen that do this end up being, like, are good. But he's, like, the one that I've seen, like, mix up sets that's just not good, which is kind of crazy. At least at tackle, so. But this is a rep that you would see him have in Miami, so at least he's able to win this one. But he's not going against the greatest pass rusher, not the most powerful athletic guy. But then, like, what is he doing here? One, this is Savin Collins, who's like a linebacker edge tweener. And he's just, look how much depth he's gaining. Just right here to wait for this guy. He's giving him all the momentum in the world just to throw him back in the quarterback. This rep actually makes me like, what is he doing with his footwork too? Like, what is that? He's shuffling. I'm like, he's like, literally, it looks like he looks like a DB in his pedal. And then he just waits for him and gets pushed back by a guy who's more of an off-ball linebacker than an edge. But then you see, this is another funny one actually, because you're like, okay, look at this big man moving out in space. This is what you want to see in Miami. Looks like he's moving well, and then just run right past him. Okay, sorry. Okay, well, let's get serious. Guys. Okay. Then we got Borom here. Another, sort of rep where, he's not able to create the movement laterally that you want. This is where I was like, if he could do this, if he could get out laterally on outside zone and either reach a guy, which I do think he has more potential to reach, or create movement down, horizontally down the line to, create some cutback lanes. That's just not something that he does very often, if at all, on his film. So, yeah, we're getting very serious. And then here he is trying to work a double team. The guy drops to his knee and he somehow falls off the block, and the guy beats both of them at the point of attack. And that was it was with a tight end, but that's more on you, not creating that push. So, this is not a move that I love really at all. I can at least understand why they went after it, and potentially converting him to guard and being more guard depth. But to be fair, I do think he would actually, if he played guard, I actually think he might play it. He would probably play it better than Liam just because of his physical skill set, even though they both, they're very different players, but both pretty bad. I don't even know where he is on this play. I think this is a positive rep. Here he is at left tackle. Here he is working a combo. This is what you want to see. Get out of your stance laterally, show some lateral explosiveness, get the help from the tight end, but then seal and cut off. Those are the plays that you need to be able to do in Miami. And at least when he does show a positive play, it is typically this type of play. And this is what you'll be asked to do on Miami Dolphins outside zones and all the tosses and majority of the Dolphins run concepts. There he is losing to a blitz, just identifying it late. I actually do think he will pick up stunts decently. Like right here, actually, this is some older film. This is from earlier seasons. He actually looks pretty explosive out of his stance here. Looks a little more clean. Gets, some decent hands there. And then once the guy works off, he's able to pick this crash guy pretty quickly. So I don't think he necessarily has a huge problem with processing stunts or anything like that. Usually if he's late to pick something up, it's more because he has poor footwork. Here he is getting out of his stance though, and just playing with too high a pad level, trying to cut him off, and then just feels like he loses concentration on this play, and then he gets absolutely tossed to the side like it's nothing, which you don't want to see. That's just another play of him playing at guard. So I know people told me to watch the Bills guard game, and there are more of his positive reps are in that game, but there are still plenty of negative reps. Overall, this was an average game from him. So don't have a ton of faith. This is definitely one of my least favorite signings. So hopefully you don't have to see him much. I do want to say though, I do believe he will be better in Miami, but he won't be like an impact player. Because I've said that before with players like Aaron Brewer, Connor Williams, but I actually believe Brewer and Connor Williams would actually be like solid starters for Miami, which they were. I don't think that's the case with Borom. I do think he will see improvement, but I do not think it will be much. I still think he will have his issues, and he doesn't do enough on the positive side of his game. Like his strengths aren't enough of strengths to like I think really utilize him in Miami. So if you guys really like, comment and subscribe. Peace.